Sports fans anywhere can earn a nationally recognized degree from Penn State. Online. Whether you're starting or finishing your degree, study where and when it's convenient for you. Choose from more than 125 programs to become a top prospect in your field and advance your career. Learn more at worldcampusinfo.com. Penn State World Campus, a world of possibilities. Online. Visit worldcampusinfo.com today. That's worldcampusinfo.com.
This is the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. Subscribe now by going to the Listen tab in the ESPN app.
The Best of Mike and Mike.
We are Mike and Mike. We are looking forward to the start of the football season tonight, and there's no one better to help us ring it in than our own Herm Edwards, who joins us here in studio. And Herman and I had the delightful occasion to spend a few hours together on Tuesday playing golf in a terrific charity outing for the Voices of 9/11, which is a wonderful charity. But I have to tell you something about Herman. I got to tell you a great Herman Edwards story. So the second hole that we play is the 11th hole on this golf course. We started on 10. Mm-hmm. And it is a long par 3 over some water.
Yes.
I hit a great shot. I'm like 10 feet.
He did. He
I hit a great shot.
Yeah,
Herman is like practically off the green. He's got to have, we marched it off. It was like 60 feet or something.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, somewhere close to that.
And it's one of those holes that like you're sort of right in the center of the action. So there's like 5 different groups that are all within the sound of Herman's voice, I would say everyone on the golf course.
Everybody on the course, yeah.
And Herman is walking around yelling, "These are the kinds I make." I can't do an imitation. I make these. You watch, I make these. This is the kind of putts I make. I make these. So everyone stops and is watching. And as God is my witness, he rolls the thing in.
That's amazing.
From 60 feet with everybody there watching.
Big
It was
break, straight shot?
No.
Straight?
I had a little break, too.
Left to right.
The left to right. I make them left to righters all the time.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's my putt.
And you called it. That's what I like about it.
Well, it's fun to call it because if it goes in, it's like, man, he knows what he's talking about. If it don't go in, they go, okay. Then, when it goes in, it's like, oh, boy, yeah. It's all
nice.
good.
And I missed my putt, so he made 2 and I made 3.
Wow.
He made some birdies, though. He's a good teammate. How many birdies you have? 2?
I had 2 birdies.
We both had 2 birdies.
Yeah.
And his walking pro, the guy that he takes lessons from, marvelous.
Yeah.
Great teacher. I mean, we had so much fun.
When you say walking pro, did you guys walk?
We did.
He walked.
Yeah.
He was serious.
Had a cart.
I had a cart.
Oh, okay.
Because I was going around, kissing babies.
Herman was kissing babies.
Absolutely.
All right, so there was all of that, and lots of fun to be had, obviously. And look, we try to do that here every single morning when we can, is highlight the fun part of all of this because, you turn on our show and I think you're looking to get away from the things that are happening in the world. But sometimes the things that are happening in the world happen within our world of sports.
Yes, they do.
And yesterday was certainly an example of that with the Seahawks' Michael Bennett. I'm sure by now you're aware of the story. He is one of the most, in my opinion, he's one of the most interesting and thoughtful people in sports today. Mike, we sat with him at the Pro Bowl, remember, in February, and spent some time with him. And he's one of many people in sports whose voice I think is not worth listening to. Almost sounds patronizing. I don't mean it that way. He's one of the people I like to hear from. I believe he is contributing things to the conversation that are very much worth hearing.
Listen, I agree. Sometimes when he and his brother get together, it gets outlandish with some of the things they say going back and forth, and you kind of chuckle. But when they get serious about issues going on, you definitely want to listen to them.
And then there's this. Michael Bennett says that police pointed guns at him and accused them in Las Vegas of using excessive force and racial profiling in an incident that took place in Las Vegas after the Mayweather-McGregor fight. He detailed his account in a statement that was posted on Twitter and said he felt terrified and helpless. By now, if you were paying any attention yesterday, you've seen some of the video that was posted on TMZ. And here's a little bit of Michael Bennett addressing the media yesterday. These sort of his opening words on the events yesterday.
It's a traumatic experience for me, my family, and it sucks that the country that we live in now, sometimes you get profiled for the color of your skin, and it's a tough situation for me. Do I think every police officer is bad? No, I don't believe that. Do I believe there's some people out there that judge people on the color of their skin? I do believe that, and I'm just focused on trying to push forward and keep continuously championing the quest for justice for people. Keep pushing equality for oppressed people. I think people sometimes you think that the game is the most important thing, but for me, the whole time I wasn't thinking about the Super Bowl. I wasn't thinking about what play we were going to run against Green Bay or sacking Aaron Rodgers. I was just literally thinking about my wife and children and how much they mean to me.
Again, for those who, if you may not know, he was in Vegas for the Mayweather-McGregor fight. He was at a club, and there were reports of shots being fired at the club, and he and a bunch of people took off running when they had heard that. And basically the police, in this case, singled him out and got him on the ground. And you heard in the videos Bennett saying, why are you stopping me? What's asking the questions? And the police, and have him on his stomach and end up cuffing him. And as he said at one point, there was a gun to his head. And we'll give it from the other side. The Vegas police undersheriff, Kevin McCahill, said they were investigating the report of an active shooter in a club that Bennett happened to be at. Bennett was found by police crouching by some machines before he sprinted away from the police. McHale said the action led to cops chasing after him. He said, as far as the incident was handled, he said the undersheriff said no evidence that race played any role in the incident, but was based on his actions given the situation, though he says he didn't know why Bennett was singled out amongst all the other people that were running. So that's from the Las Vegas police side. They said the policeman did have a body camera on him, but was not turned on. So you're not going to see body cam footage from that police officer. So they said we had reason to stop him, but we don't know why, and when they're investigating why he was singled out.
Again, most of you have probably by now seen at least some video from TMZ. Herman, when you saw that video, what thoughts went through your mind?
Well, it's frightful, and I think me sitting here, a man of color, you grow up with this. I've been stopped numerous times, and you do what Michael Bennett obviously did, and that is listen to the officer, and you try to be calm. You have to be the calm one, because obviously when a situation like this occurs, there's a lot of anxiety, and you don't know what's about to happen. People are running. The officers are coming in. They have their weapons drawn, thinking there's something going on, and someone has to be calm. And I thought Michael handled it as about as good as you can handle it. In the fact that he didn't struggle, he didn't resist anything, and I think that's what you have to do, and you have to hopefully the officer that you're dealing with at that point in time is a guy that his emotions can calm down as well, and nothing bad happens. I mean, this is a bad incident, obviously, but Michael walks away with his life, and that's probably the most important thing.
Listen, this is a horrible incident that I can't relate to at all. Very difficult for me to sit there and say, oh, yeah, when that happened to me. It hasn't happened to me. You could sit here and see these. So the interesting part of it to me, and it had to be a horrible experience for him with a gun at his head saying, he's going to get, shut up or you're going to get killed and shot. And was hearing the interview done by his father, Michael Bennett, Michael Martellus' father, who, by the way, was a 10-year naval vet.
Yes.
Okay. And his father saying that he had his talk with his kids when they were younger. When you hear the talk, you think about, the dad-son talk. This was a talk about if you get stopped by police, how to act and how to behave and what to do. And he said because of that, he thinks his son may be alive because he remembered that and listened to his father giving him the talk. And the father, I think one of the most interesting lines at the end was, this is why my sons are doing what they're doing when they kneel down, is so we don't have to have that talk anymore to our teenage, as he said, black friends or Hispanic, whatever, people that they're talking about here.
I know this, and I told a story yesterday. When I was prepared to get my license, I had to talk for my dad.
What did he say?
He said this. He says, when the officer pulls you over, he says, you make sure you take your hands off the steering wheel and you put them outside the window so they can see your hands, and don't move. And wait till they approach the car and do everything they ask you to do. But you make sure, son, you take your hands and you stop that car and you put your hands out of the window, both of them, so they can see them. And he was right.
Now, did you ever question why should I have to do that?
No.
As an African American, a white person doesn't have to do that?
He just says, I'm giving you some advice. And listen to you. My father grew up in the South. As we know, you guys know the story, 27 years in the military, a master sergeant, fought in World War II and the Korean War. And he says, you need to understand this. And I said, I got it, Dad. And, you know, and I was pulled over a couple times, and that's that. Here I go. I'm good.
Right.
And I sat there until the officer came and did exactly what he told me to do, and I left it at that. And, you know, but that was the conversation.
Yeah, well, that was exactly what Michael Bennett Sr. said. He talked with his kids, and he said we've seen instances where we've seen people comply, and that still sometimes doesn't work. And he really wanted to make a point of saying he kind of chuckles, but in a sad way, for those that will rip his kids for saying they're disrespecting the military. He's saying, my kids grew up on naval bases. I've been in the Navy for 10 years. It's not a disrespect to the military. It's to what's going on, and to just listen to the conversation rather than just throw it aside and say, oh, they're disrespecting the military and move on.
Couple things come to mind here for me. You know, Michael Bennett, obviously, he's a social activist. He is speaking for the voiceless that can't speak, and he has a platform. And he's playing football and trying to do both at the same time. But I would say this going forward after this incident, I think if you're a head coach, what I would do, I would call the local authorities in and have them visit with my team and tell them exactly what an officer's thought process is when something like this occurs. Because you know, players Thursday night they always go out. You know, that's the night the players go out and visit with the police officer and say, look, let us know what these police officers are taught when they come in an environment where there might be gunshots and people are running out. What is their mindset? What should we do? You know, so the players are aware of how to handle a situation that they have no control of, but they're trying to get out. And when officers are coming in and when they're approached by an officer, what is the procedure? I would like to know that, just as a citizen, and I would like my team to understand that. You know, hey, Mike, we grew up in a whole world. It's always about a game plan, right? What is the game plan? What is the game plan of the officer when he walks into a room where he feels like there's been gunshots? What is his mindset? What is he taught to do? I would want my team to know that, these players to know that, so they can respond in the right way. That's the important thing.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Tons of Twitter reaction to this conversation, as there always is. And somewhat frustratingly, it tends to sometimes fall on these very divided sides where no one wants to listen to what anyone else is saying. And all I feel like I can contribute to this in the short term is just to say that the best definition I can think of empathy and compassion is to try to understand what it would be like to be in another person's shoes. I can't put myself into the shoes of a police officer running into a crowded nightclub where there's been been reports of a shooting, and I cannot put myself into the shoes of a man like Michael Bennett who's been held to the ground and handcuffed to the point that his fingers start tingling, and someone is holding a gun in his back when he's done nothing wrong and saying, say a word and I'm going to blow your head off. I've never lived either of those experiences. So all I'm trying to do is my best to understand what it might be like to be in those circumstances and listen and understand the emotions that are probably involved. Herman, again, based upon life experience, you understand certain parts of this better than I can or do and better than Mike can or does. And you were, during the break, telling me a story about your life when you were a scout, scouting certain parts of the country.
Yeah, it was a scout for the Chiefs back in '89. That's how I broke into the business with Kansas City. I was a scout and a part-time secondary guy there with the Chiefs. And I can remember going to the Senior Bowl and one evening sitting around with the old scouts, with guys that just scouted in the 60s and in the 70s. And they told me the story. There's a bunch of black scouts sitting in the room, and we're just kind of talking about the old times, talking about players. And they're teaching me the way of the ropes of being a scout and going on the road. And they said, you know, when we used to travel in the South, he said, we would get stopped a lot. You know, a black guy driving a new car, rent a car, because you go to the airport and you rent a car and you have to go to all these places and visit schools. And he said, so we figured it out. Eventually what we would do, we would dress in black suits with a white shirt and a black tie and get a black car. And then we didn't get stopped as much because people thought we were obviously, you know, drivers, that we were chauffeurs.
Yeah.
And we didn't get stopped. But it is, that was like a true conversation. And I'm sitting there going, really? And he says, just remember that, young one. They called me young one, you know. So I was a young guy, you know. And he says, just, you know, we've come a long way, but we started out that way. And it's like, and you go, okay. And I wrote it down. I said, I got it, you know. And that's another little story that was told.
We got like under a minute right in that area. We're getting a lot of people saying, wait a minute, every parent should tell their kid, white, black, whatever, to be respectful of the police when they get pulled over.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So he said some people are saying we're trying to make it sound different in the black community when the parents are having that talk.
I just know that's the conversation we have. Every parent has to handle this conversation how they handle it. I think if you're any parent, you have to say this. When you get stopped by a police officer, respect them. Do everything that he asks you to do. Don't get into a verbal conversation. Right. Just do what he says. Because at the end, you want to go home. Okay, when a person has a gun, okay, and you've done nothing wrong, guess what? You listen to what they say. You don't bring out your A personality and say, well, I'm going to have confrontation. No, you don't. Listen to what the man says. Michael Bennett was embarrassed. He was scared to death. But guess what? He goes home the next night and he sees his family. That's the most important thing.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Saw something on Twitter that I think we need to share with the audience here. We had Will Kane in studio yesterday. You all know Will. And what you may know or you may not know is his legal background. And what you even further may not know is that he is intimately familiar with the specific courthouse, and the judge that is handling the Zeke Elliott matter. And so he has some insight for us, and let's bring him in here quickly with some thoughts on that. Good morning, Will Kane. What can you share with us?
Good morning, fellas. Well, yesterday I got a call from a guy I've known all my life. His name's Bob Jarvis. He was the district attorney in Sherman, Texas there for the district there. He was a prosecutor for 12 years, and he and a handful of lawyers from Sherman were in the courtroom on Tuesday evening listening to the arguments between the NFL and the NFLPA. And they all came away from that. They all listened to it and came away from it thinking that Judge Amos Mazant was going to grant Ezekiel Elliott's temporary restraining order, that he asked the NFL on 3 separate occasions tough questions about the process and said, tell me how this isn't unfair. Explain to me how this is a fundamentally fair process. And the NFL, at least in the estimation of these attorneys, did not answer that in a satisfactory way for Judge Mazant. And they told me, look, we will not be surprised at all. We have full expectation that on Friday he's going to grant that temporary restraining order, which would mean Zeke Elliott would be on the field for, at the very least, much of 2017 and possibly all of 2017.
Well, let's go there because this is, again, where we lean to you on this about the timing of everything. So if he is granted that and can continue to play, how quickly does the NFL jump back in wanting a resolution to this? I don't know how fast all this can work. Can it work either very, very quickly or, as you said, could this go out through the whole season?
So if this remains in the Sherman court, if this remains in the Eastern District of Texas, and you guys will have to forgive me, the NFL filed their suit in New York yesterday to try to have it removed. I didn't see the resolution of that. I don't know what the outcome of that attempt to move it was. But if it remains in Sherman, if it remains in the Eastern District of Texas, again, I ask these lawyers, how quickly could the NFL or the NFLPA get this back on the docket? That's essentially the list of cases that a judge has to hear. Those things are made months in advance. I mean, lawyers have cases coming into federal court, and they have a lot of time to prepare it. Now, could he prioritize it? I don't know, but I was just told it's a heavy docket. It's a busy docket. It could take a while before this gets back. And by the way, you also have to grant some expectation of preparation for this. I'm sure the NFL is ready. They could just probably erase Tom Brady and pencil in Ezekiel Elliott for most of their argument. But, the NFLPA and Zeke Elliott have to have time to prepare a case. And so that could, at the very least, Golic, be months, November, December. But I don't think it's unrealistic at all to say it's beyond the length of the season.
It's really well done. Will Kane, thanks a million for jumping in with this. And if you hear anything further, please let us know. And obviously, Will be a part of First Take, as he so frequently is, and much, much more. Well
Thanks,
done,
Will
Kane. Thank you very much with the insight. Again, he grew up basically in that courthouse.
Right. Yes, he did.
He knows the people involved. And let's just make it clear. He's not telling you this is what's going to happen. He's not reporting knowledge that this is what's going to happen. He's telling you observers who are extremely informed on the behavior of this particular judge emerged from the hearing with the impression that the judge sounds inclined to grant the TRO.
And again, let's be specific here. This isn't about guilt or innocence of Zeke Elliott. It's about process being fair or unfair, which, as Will said, the judge seemed to ask the NFL on 3 different occasions, and those in that room that Will talked to felt that the NFL didn't give a satisfactory enough answer to why they think that Zeke is going to get that restraining order, which means he will be on the field.
All right, we will find that out tomorrow. Meantime, we will make our Super Bowl picks today. Mike and all of the Twitter reaction comes through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. I look at one here from Kelly Jones.
Yeah, go ahead.
And she tweets at me, Greeny, I'm a chef. I will make you a caprese salad. Can you please not pick the Seahawks? I need this win. #Go Hawks. Kelly, I'd love the salad, and I'm sure you're a great chef. But in a few minutes, I got real bad news for you.
Can I ask a real quick question here?
Yeah.
A real quick question?
Sure.
So they said they're a chef.
Yeah.
Do you need to be a chef to throw a big slice of tomato and a big chunk of mozzarella cheese and some balsamic on the top of it to make a caprese salad? Seriously?
See, this
to
is
feed
why,
to feed to the rabbits?
This is to the rabbits.
Seriously?
Here's the thing.
I'm a chef. I'll make you a caprese salad like it's difficult.
A caprese salad can come in so many different forms and fashions.
It's a chunk of tomato, a chunk of mozzarella, and a balsamic vinegar. Is there any more to that? Am I missing something?
It can be. It can have so many other delightful features.
You know what would be the best feature? Throw a burger on top of it.
Well, not a burger.
That would be the best feature of all.
Do you like a little meat with it? A lot of people
a
put
burger.
a little
Throw
prosciutto
a burger on it.
How about a little prosciutto with it? You get a little bit of that. A lot of people make it with it.
I don't like tomato, so could I get a caprese salad without the big chunk of tomato?
You could.
I would.
I don't know that it would be called a caprese salad anymore. That certainly is a staple.
It'd be like a BLT without the B, the L, or the T.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. If you just took like 2 pieces of toast and some mayonnaise and put them together and said this is a BLT, it would lose a lot of its BLT-ness. All right, we're Mike and Mike. Let's do Straight Talk. It's brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. We'll do our divisions and all that kind of stuff here, and then we'll break. We'll come back and we'll do our Super Bowl teams. We'll do our Rookies of the Year, and we'll do our MVPs.
Got them all.
So, Mike, go ahead. Give me your AFC playoff teams.
My AFC playoff teams in the East, I don't think it will be any surprise that I'm going to go with the New England Patriots as the winner of the East. So I have that. You're going to ding it?
Yeah.
You can't ding it.
When you get these right, I will give you the ding. And when you get them wrong, I will give you the buzzer.
Okay. I'm just going to say this one time.
Uh-huh.
If I mention a name and there's a buzz, I am going to punch you in the throat. Okay?
Okay.
Listen,
now let the record show. Someone else can hit the buzz just because they want to see me punched in the throat.
No,
see, that wasn't
I'm
me.
watching you. I understand. If I see you, listen, this show's done in a few months.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Okay, no,
but
I don't want to be punched in the throat.
You got a little while before your next show starts. It'll heal.
No,
okay?
no, I'm a very slow healer. Okay, you got the Patriots right.
I got the Patriots right. In the North, I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, you got that one right.
Okay. In the South, I'm going with the arrow up on the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, got that one right too.
Man, I'll tell you what. Here's your deal right here. Here's where you make it hit.
Okay.
In the West, I am going with the Raiders.
I mean, you got that one wrong. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not allowed to hit the. I didn't hit that buzzer.
I
saw
know.
me. I didn't.
I know you didn't.
I'm like a ventriloquist. I can't throw my buzzer.
I know. I'm with you.
But you did get that one wrong. The Chiefs are going to win the West.
So I'm going with the Patriots, the Steelers, Tennessee, and the Raiders.
I'm going with the Patriots, Titans, Steelers, and Chiefs to win
okay.
their division. So, Mike, who are your AFC wild cards?
My wild cards are going to be the Chiefs.
Okay, so we both have them in.
And I'm not doing this just because he's a friend of mine and he'll smile for this. I'm doing it. I think they can get back. I'm intrigued with the quarterback situation in Jay Cutler. I'm putting Miami back in the playoffs.
Okay, I like that. So they were in the playoffs a year ago.
Without a
so who is the
quarterback.
friend of yours that you're?
Darius.
Oh, for Darius Rucker, you're
yeah.
doing it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, yeah. You just didn't specify that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I guess I should have. That's my fault.
You are picking the Dolphins. Okay.
I was thinking about going 3 out of the West and putting Denver in as well and having 3 out of the West. But I didn't do that. There was the thought of Cincinnati, Baltimore. I gave some thought. The Texans now I have out. I thought of them as well. But I'm going to go with the Dolphins.
I am totally torn on that last pick. The Dolphins are not part of the equation for me. I am putting the Raiders in
as a wild card.
As a wild card. Again, Pats, Titans, Steelers, Chiefs. I'm at the Raiders in. And then for my second AFC wild card, I am dead torn between the Texans and the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Texans' defense at this stage is better than the Broncos' defense. I think, and not just because he went to Northwestern, I actually have more confidence in Trevor Siemian than I have in the overall quarterback situation in Houston. But
interesting on the defense.
Let's see what winds up going. I think the Texans' defense is
good too, but
they've added J.J. Watt to at the end of last year.
Listen,
Houston's defense looked like the best defense in the sport.
Let's put it this way. We're splitting hairs.
Yeah.
They're both excellent.
So I'm going with Houston.
Okay.
I would not be the least bit surprised, and I will be rooting like crazy for Denver, but I will go with Houston.
Okay.
So Pats, Titans, Steelers, Chiefs with the Raiders and the Texans are my 6 AFC playoff teams.
The best of Mike and Mike.
Right now, we're selecting our playoff teams, and so we just ran through our picks in the AFC. Again, repeating them quickly. My division winners are the Patriots, Titans, Steelers, and Chiefs, with the Raiders and Texans in as wild cards.
Mine are the Patriots, the Titans, the Steelers, and the Raiders, with the wild cards being the Chiefs and the Dolphins.
All right, and so now Golic goes to the NFC.
The NFC, I'm going with, and especially after that little news from Will Cain where he believes Zeke Elliott will get granted his restraining order by tomorrow from the judge, meaning he will be eligible to play until this all gets worked out. I have Dallas winning their division.
Can I hit the buzzer?
Well, if you hit the buzzer, then I'm going to punch you in the throat.
Is there any kind of? Is there anything I can? I didn't.
I know
that.
you didn't. I know you didn't
touch that.
There's just accepting my picks as my picks.
Right, but that one's wrong.
So it's not wrong until the end of the season if it's wrong.
Giants are going to win the NFC East. Go ahead.
Am I doing my picks or are you doing your picks?
You're doing your picks.
Here's the next thing I'll say.
Okay.
You don't have to hit the buzzer. If you tell me your pick after my pick, I'll punch you in the throat. Wait till my picks are all done.
Can someone get me some sort of throat protection?
Yes, you're going to need it.
All right, who's winning the rest
Cowboys,
of the
the Packers, the Carolina Panthers are going to come back and win that division.
Interesting pick, Mike.
And see, that's what I was looking for.
I like that pick.
That's open to discussion.
I don't see it the same way.
And then Seattle.
Okay, that one I like a lot.
All right.
No, so I've got the Giants winning the NFC East. I think they're going to be really good. I think the Giant defense is going to be like legendarily kind of good. I think the Packers win the NFC North. I'm taking Tampa Bay to win the South. They always shuffle winners around in that division. I think they're ready to go, and I think Jameis Winston is going to have a huge year. With the addition, I'm going to at some point here I'm going to have to punch myself in the throat because Lord knows I'm not punching you. But I think Winston is going to have a huge year with the addition of Deshaun Jackson. The one thing they really haven't had there is someone who takes the top off the defense. Right. Now they do. That defense is good.
They're an intriguing team.
I love Tampa.
Completely agree with you on
and
that.
I love Seattle. And then I'll give you my wild cards. I'm putting the Falcons in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And despite the news on Zeke Elliott, which I didn't have when I first wrote these picks down, and it makes me a little bit more nervous. But I still think Dallas won a lot of 50-50 games last year, and the odds catch up to you on stuff like that. I like the Eagles. I think Philadelphia is going to be better. They got a lot of weapons for Wentz going into his second year. I think he's going to be really good. I'm going to take the Eagles as something of a surprise team in a very crowded division to come out as a wild card.
I thought about taking the Eagles. I still think the defense is a little bit a ways away here where they're still going to put too much pressure on the offense to do too much. So I'm going to wait a little bit on them. I am putting Atlanta in the playoffs. For those of you yesterday when I said Atlanta was out, that's because we had to do 4 in and 4 out along that. So we don't have to do that now. So I'm making Atlanta my wild card, so I don't have Tampa Bay in the playoffs. I'm not putting them in. And then the other one, I'm sure a lot of people think, oh, you're going to pick the Giants. I'm not going to have the Giants in the playoffs. I think that O-line hurts them. The Beckham injury and ankle worries me. Worries me about happening over again. The defense, no argument for me. That is a great defense. I'm going to take a little bit of a flyer here, and I'm going the Minnesota Vikings to make the playoffs here. I love their defense. Between Murray and Cook in the running back position, they redid the offensive line a bit. I think Rudolph can be a big, big target again for them. I think I like where they're going to go this year.
Yeah, look, a lot of people do. And the question is, for me, is the quarterback play. I do love Dalvin Cook, so we'll see where that winds up. All right, those are our picks for the conferences, the divisions, and the wild cards. All right, now it's getting to serious business. Mike, who's coming out?
I'm making it easy. New England and Seattle. I mean, New England to me is like Alabama. I never bet against Alabama last year, and then I lost obviously in the championship game. But they're like New England and Alabama. I don't bet against them, and then I'll take my chances. So New England gets there. I think Seattle is really primed right now, so I have them both in the Super Bowl.
And who do you have winning?
I think I have Seattle. I just like what they're doing. I might change that to New England. I'm not sure yet.
These teams
Show's
were
not over yet.
1 yard, the 1 yard separated, of course, Seattle from beating New England in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Then Malcolm Butler happened, and the Patriots wound up winning that one. I, too, like Seattle. In fact, I'm telling you right now, I'm picking Seattle to win the Super Bowl. I think they are top to bottom the best team in the NFL. Russell Wilson, while everyone recognizes how good he is, I still think he's actually underrated and undervalued. I know they have questions on the offensive line, but he does a lot to overcome that. If he stays healthy, I think Russell Wilson is going to have an enormous year. And so I like the Seahawks coming out, and I'm torn in the AFC. Because I'm telling you right now, everyone is saying, Greeny, how can you not pick the Patriots? The AFC is loaded. If I told you right now Oakland would come out, I wouldn't be stunned. Pittsburgh, I wouldn't be stunned. And yet the one I'm going to take, cautiously, nervously, but I'm just taking a flyer.
Are you taking Kansas City?
I'm going to take the Chiefs.
You are?
I'm going to take Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs to come out of the AFC. They are a thorn in New England's side. They turn teams over.
They do.
They don't make mistakes on their own end. Can Alex Smith get into a shootout and beat you? Maybe not. Maybe he won't have to. I know it's a bit of an off-the-wall pick, but I'll go with it. I'm taking the Seahawks over the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
I give you credit. Went out on a limb there a little bit with that one.
What I noticed is I mentioned Schefter like 3 times during that Sports Center, and he is over there typing something, texting or tweeting or something. It didn't even – you were so focused, it seemed to me you didn't even notice that I referenced you multiple times.
Welcome to the world of my wife. You sound like my wife talking to me right now.
I thought your wife was texting you or something.
It could have been that. One way or the other. All right, Schefter is here. We got a lot of stuff to work on, obviously, as the NFL season begins tonight. I want you to hear Will Cain with us an hour ago. So, again, by way of setting this up for everybody, Will Cain – who has been a practicing lawyer in his life and was raised in Sherman, Texas, and his own words, basically in that courthouse.
Right.
So he knows the judge extremely well. He knows the cast of characters there extremely well. And he called in to share the following thoughts. Again, this is not that he's reporting it will happen, but this is a sense that people who are very well informed on the people involved are believing about where the Ezekiel Elliott matter will go in Sherman, Texas.
A handful of lawyers from Sherman were in the courtroom on Tuesday evening listening to the arguments between the NFL and the NFLPA, and they all came away from that. They all listened to it and came away from it thinking that Judge Amos Mazant was going to grant Ezekiel Elliott's temporary restraining order, that he asked the NFL on 3 separate occasions, tough questions about the process and said, tell me how this isn't unfair. Explain to me how this is a fundamentally fair process. And the NFL, at least in the estimation of these attorneys, did not answer that in a satisfactory way for Judge Mazant. And they told me, look, we will not be surprised at all. We have full expectation that on Friday he's going to grant that temporary restraining order.
So, again, that's Will Cain talking to guys who were in that courtroom and based off the answers and the questions from the judge, feel that the restraining order is going to be granted to Zeke.
That's his jurisdiction. That's his home field advantage. He believes he knows those people and how it works, and that's his belief. And I would put credence into that. And if that TRO is granted, then that means that Ezekiel Elliott is playing this season. And that eventually, it certainly seems like his 6 games are going to come. He's going to have to take that medicine.
Listen, it's the Tom Brady situation. And play here, you want to go all the way back to the Star Caps with Pat and Kevin Williams, when I think it was 2 seasons after they were, accused of failing the drug test, or that they got to play. So this has happened before, with then the penalty still being served. So we still all think. Do you agree that at some point he is still going to serve 6 games?
Let me say that's Will's area. I can say I expect him to serve 6 games at some point.
At some point.
Okay. And if he's right about the TRO being granted on Friday, then that 6 games probably is going to be next year.
Correct. Mm-hmm. He said that, too. He said that based upon timing, is it possible that they expedite the thing so that the first hearing comes up in November and December? It's not impossible, but it's not likely. So, yes, if he does get the TRO granted on Friday, we probably get Zeke Elliott for the entirety of this season. And we all know, Schefter, and now we'll get back to your sort of area of expertise, the NFLPA is itching for this fight. I mean, they will take any opportunity they can to get into court to try and challenge the power and authority of the commissioner, because it's the only chance they have. It is my firm belief that will never happen in collective bargaining. The 2,000 players in the National Football League have bigger concerns than Article 46. They're not going to hold out so that 6 players a year don't wind up in this boat. So for someone like D. Smith, and every single day I'm getting texts, I'm sure you are as well, or emails from a PR firm that's representing Cyrus Murray, this guy who wants to run against him for executive director, whoever it winds up being. They're itching for this fight, right? Because that's the only chance they have to go after that power.
Well, listen, we could talk about that power, and it comes up in instances like this. And you bring up the bigger point to me, Greeny. When the NBA players are signing contracts, we say, why is the NFL not getting money like this? When we hear the guarantee contracts, why are they not getting guaranteed contracts? We hear about marijuana. Why is that not being legalized? We hear about the bye weeks. Why are players playing 16 weeks? There are so many issues and so many things that players want and so many things that fans want for players. They're not getting all those things. What are the most important things? And in this particular case, the commissioner's powers, I guess they're very important, but really, what are we talking about in the grand scheme of things when it affects just a handful of players, if that, every single year?
Yeah, you're talking about nothing the players are going to miss game checks for. That's not what they're going to miss game. There's not a chance that's going to happen. You just mentioned some of the other fish to fry there, things that they can.
There's a lot of other things that, to me, I think are more important to the players than the commissioner's power.
Without question, without a doubt, completely agree. All right, on the field, or hopefully on the field, Aaron Donald. Any update? Where are we with him?
Listen, I don't think he's playing week 1.
Right.
I don't think he's playing week 2. I don't think they're close. And, I mean, close is relative, right? Because all it takes is one phone call where somebody says, hey, can you do this? Or we could take that. And you go back and forth and you figure it out. But the bottom line is right now, they don't appear close to figuring it out. Today, Thursday, with the regular season opening tonight. So he's not in L.A. He's in Pittsburgh.
Right.
He's doing what he's doing. And I think they're not going to see him for a while here.
For those that may not know, the long haul would be 8 games, right? He would need to come in after the 8th week for purposes of counting the year and all that.
Towards free agency. But, you know, it's a tough spot because when you look at it like this, Aaron Donald is in the same position that a number of great players from that draft class are in. Jadeveon Clowney, Khalil Mack, Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Zach Martin.
Right.
We can go on and on. That was a tremendous draft class. One of them is holding out. And I agree with what he's saying and what he's fighting for, but all the other ones are in camp.
Yeah, the latest news was Zach Martin. They stopped the contract.
They're not doing it this year.
And they're going to pick it up after the season.
Clarify what you agree with for those in our audience who don't know. Again, those guys are all playing. He's not. They have huge contract looming next off season, but they're putting that in jeopardy every time they step
that's
on
the whole, and that's where I understand his point. Like, Odell Beckham Jr. took that shot on his knee in that Monday night game, and fortunately he came away with an ankle sprain here. What if it were something more significant when he or any of these elite players are looking at elite money? DeAndre Hopkins just got $49 million guaranteed last week. So a player like Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr., they're looking at numbers north of that potentially. So when you're stepping on the football field for $1.8 million this year, $2 million, when you could be making $50, $60, $70 million in guaranteed money, is that a wise business decision?
Well, it comes down to a personal business decision on what they want to do, and Donald chooses to sit. Those guys choose to play.
Let me ask you a question.
There's no right or wrong there. It's what you feel like you need to do.
There is a right or wrong in an individual, but then there's also that locker room. I'd love to get your take on what you think the sentiment is in that locker room.
When it's money, it's business.
They just leave guys alone.
They leave guys alone.
The worst thing that other players could do when it involves someone else's contract is weigh in.
That's exactly right.
You stay out of that.
Yep.
Because everybody gets to make their own decisions about what's best for them personally. They sacrifice so much and put their bodies on the line. They get to do whatever they want.
That's exactly right. The guys that say you do what you think is right for you, because other guys may be in that position. Not with the amount of money Aaron Donald is, but in their own personal situation like that. And if it's about money, so nobody in that, they would love to have him, but nobody's saying, oh, my God, is he letting down the team because he's not here? They're saying, hey, you know what? He's trying to get his right now, and I have no problem.
See, Aaron Donald, when he signs, whenever it is, whether that's next week, next month, next year, the year after, we're talking $60, $65, $70 million in guaranteed money. He's supposed to make $1.8 million this year. Would you go do that? But at the same time, the Rams are right because they've made him a multitude of offers, and he's got this year in his contract at 1.8, and next year in the fifth-year option that we talk about issues with the players. The fifth-year option is a much bigger issue to players than the commissioner's powers.
Explain that quickly for those in our audience who don't know it.
Because that's for first-round draft picks where teams can pick up an option that guarantees a 5th year on the contract, which in Aaron Donald's case is for, I don't know, $6, $7, $8 million, when on the open market he would be getting double that.
You're almost better to go in the after the first round, the second round.
Because you have a 4-year contract.
It's a 4-year guy, you're a free agent.
It depends, right? I mean, everything in life depends, because when they first got that into the contract, it sounded great. Oh, get that 5th year.
Great for the owners.
First round.
Great for the owners. And the players at first thought, like Zach Martin's guaranteed like $9 million next year. You like the fact that it's there, but kind of like the franchise tag, which players at first liked, saying, oh, look at that, I'm making with the average of the top 5. But then they quickly went, wait a minute, that's for the 1 year. I could be making a whole lot more on a guaranteed deal, some guaranteed money of a long-term contract.
The 5th year option for a player, a great player, is not something that they want.
And it's not the option for the player, as I know you didn't mean
option,
that. It's a team
Correct.
option, so yeah.
It's just one more year that the player's beholden to the team that he can't get to free agency.
And you got to be great to have that deal done way before that, like these guys were trying to get, or Donald's trying to get.
And that's what Aaron Donald's trying to do after 3 years, try to get it done. Everybody else is in camp, and they're not even getting the deals because the teams have 2 more years. So the teams have a right. They're right. Mm-hmm. They own the players for 2 more years. But the player's right because he is entitled to a lot more money when he's an elite, great, difference-making player.
The best of Mike and Mike.
All right, Schefter is here, and there's bad news for one NFL team that is quite accustomed to sharing bad news. Schefter, what do we have?
Myles Garrett, the number 1 overall pick in Cleveland, got hurt in practice yesterday. And a short time ago, the team said that he did suffer, which confirms what people were saying last night, a high ankle sprain. His status will be updated in a couple of weeks. Status updated in a couple of weeks. Now, a couple of things here. This is not the foot that he injured earlier in camp. Right. I believe this is his left. That was his right. The fact of the matter is it's now 2 foot, 2 ankle injuries. We're not even through the summer. Last year, their first-round draft pick, Corey Coleman, goes down in week 2 in practice. Now, Myles Garrett doesn't even make it to week 1. He had looked great during camp. There were tremendous hopes. Talked about wanting to bring down Ben Roethlisberger in the opening game on Sunday. Preseason looked tremendous. And now, a high ankle sprain. And, again, you have to wonder if he's got a propensity or a proclivity to these types of injuries because he keeps suffering them. And, look, they said his status will be updated in a couple of weeks. They didn't say he's out Sunday, but if they're updating his status in a couple of weeks and he's got a high ankle sprain, that tells me he's out a couple of weeks before they're going to bring him back.
High ankle sprain, without doubt, is going to be a few weeks.
And it's going to nag him all year long.
And he is this isn't like a big D tackle who, listen, a high ankle sprain, even if you come back and have a propensity for it, is different on a big interior lineman. This guy is a speed rusher, loves to turn the corner, has great leverage, low leverage, and you just watch him sometimes and the torque on his ankles. I'm with you. I mean, is this going to be something that is going to happen because of the way he plays, the quickness he likes to use, the change of direction with his feet, which can really put a lot of pressure on the ankles? I mean, we said it before. When you were talking about the Browns, we kind of love the situation they're in, their thought process of what they're doing, all the draft picks that they have. But it just seems no matter what regime is running it, bad stuff just happens.
It seems like every time they're building in a positive way, boom, there's a shot, and it comes back down. Building, boom. And Myles Garrett looks great. Hope. This is promising. This is high ankle sprain. He's at a couple of weeks minimum.
It's brutal. It's a terrible shame to see for him and for them. Elsewhere, the season kicks off tonight in Foxborough, and Roger Goodell will be in attendance. I find it interesting. We know the fans there are going to have their, and again, I open the show by saying sometimes things that should go without saying need to be said because the world is just crazy. So you should boo him tonight. If you're a fan of New England tonight, boo him until your lungs hurt. I'm all good with that, and then it obviously should end there, and then tomorrow we go on with our lives. But give us a little background on that in the sense of that there and Kraft and Goodell showing up finally. We know he was there for a preseason game. What are you hearing?
I think he went in the preseason. It diffuses it, tries to diffuse it. It's not going to diffuse it. He's going to be there. Now, again, I think they're going to be so focused on the festivities and unfurling the banner and the first game and Tom Brady and all that really the truth of the matter is, as much disdain as that fan base has for him, he's not the story tonight, as much as we'll continue to talk about it. The story is other things. I just think he'll be a blip there tonight. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but to me, this is about celebration, not attacking this particular individual.
Is everything good? Two-parter. Everything's good
fine.
with Goodell
It's fine.
and Kraft, and then how about with Goodell and Jerry Jones?
Listen, if you're talking about Goodell's contract extension, that's in the works, and Jerry has inserted himself onto that committee, even though he's not on the
compensation committee, right?
Yeah, to figure it out. And again, there were people who thought this deal was going to be done a few weeks back, and it's still not done for whatever reason. But it has not been a simple slam dunk deal. I think the relationship between Goodell and the Krafts is fine. I think it's pretty good where it needs to be. They respect him. They don't agree with what he did. They strongly disagree. But it's fine right now. I think the Cowboys are very upset with the league office with the way that they handled the Ezekiel Elliott situation. They have not fully addressed it publicly. But I think it's exactly what people would imagine it to be at this particular time.
Look, the easiest way for the situation with Kraft to get diffused is the fact that Brady came back. They only lost one game. They won the championship. He had a huge year. So, I mean,
let me
in
say
some
this.
ways, it didn't really cost them anything.
Not only did it not cost him anything, but Tom Brady at the age he's in, it allowed him to be even fresher later in the year. It helped preserve the season. And so in a roundabout weird way, it turned out to be a blessing for
Goodell
them.
gave them the biggest favor he could have ever possibly done. Okay, quickly. Should we read anything into the Patriots trading away Jacoby Brissett as far as the future of their quarterback position?
Absolutely zero. No bearing on it whatsoever. Jacoby Brissett really struggled through the first half of camp. Now, that last preseason game he played was tremendous, and he demonstrated the type of talent and ability he has, and at that point it would have been tough for them to get rid of him. I don't know that he would have made the roster if you based his play on what occurred in practice the first few weeks. He was really struggling, came on strong at the end, got that roster spot there, and they were able to trade him for Philip Dorsett, who they could use as a returner, who, in talking to some people that have played with Philip Dorsett, they love him as a player.
Yeah.
They think he's got some real-time ability. Not to play every single down and make plays like that, like a Julian Edelman or a Brandon Cooks, but to have a role, which is what New England is great at, he will have a role.
So are you done? You
No,
done? We're
I'm
done
not.
with the Brissett trade, and it has something to do with Brady.
Why would you think it has something to do with it? Why?
Oh, don't ask them.
Because I believe they're going to franchise Garoppolo now.
Well, hold on. Let me explain this. We've been very clear
got 10 seconds.
in their desire to keep Garoppolo. They were never trying to move on. They will always will have done everything to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, regardless.